everybody? This is Ryan with Rigs of Death Metal. My guest today is Eric of Replacire. What's up, Eric?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We kind of got busy chatting there before the camera started rolling, but
That's right.
definitely, definitely some stuff I want to circle back around to.
Oh yeah.
Um, First and foremost, been jamming the new album, thanks to Will over at Season of Mist.
Yep.
And this is a very gear centric page, so we'll get into like the real nerdy gear talk first, and then we'll kind of venture out from there.
Yeah, you got it.
So yeah, first and foremost, what guitars were you using on the album? I've seen some old pictures of you playing a couple different things like Kiesel and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are you playing right now, or what do you record with?
We use the Kiesel.
Yeah,
Like you just said, yeah, 7 string Kiesel. Is this going to be audio or video for when you release it?
video.
Oh, video. I can show you if you want to see it. I
Yeah,
got it right here.
absolutely. Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I got this Kiesel here.
Nice.
It was green, you can probably see, but I spray
Yeah.
painted it black, but it's kind
Okay.
of worn down from being on the road a little bit. It's 7 string fan frets. I got some tissue paper up there to keep it quiet.
Sure.
I actually don't know the exact model. I bought this from a friend.
Hmm.
So I can't get too nerdy on the specifics. I know I have some bare knuckles in there,
Yeah, yeah.
that sound awesome. And the maple fretboard, I always like maple fretboards. I feel like it pops a little bit more. So we used this a little bit, but we recorded a lot with Pohawk's Strandberg, believe it or not,
Okay.
which I didn't think could be as heavy as they are, because they're sort of smaller. I don't know, a little more
Hmm.
dainty, let's say. But but it worked. It worked great. And then I have one more guitar here. This is a custom EQ equilibrium guitar
Okay.
that I actually built when I was working with them. Dave was the owner. He recently passed away, which is very sad. But
Mhm.
we spent a lot of time together. And this was sort of when I was interning. It was like build a guitar. That'll be kind of your payment, and then we'll bring you on. So we use this a lot for the chugs because I don't know if you can see if I hold it up to the camera. It's got a 0 fret up there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So the open strings are actually fretted. So it's sitting right on a fret. So it's got a real metal on metal clang.
Hmm.
So a lot of the open chugs, we actually
Yeah.
would cut, go to this guitar, get the chugs in there, then go back. So
Interesting.
really
Okay.
worked well for that.
Yeah.
So those are the guitars.
Yeah, I've never got to play any guitar that actually had the zero fret. I've been interested in them. That's pretty sick.
I think it's cool. It's a noticeable difference. It's just way tighter,
Hmm.
you know, and very consistent too. It's not like it's like, oh, clearly there's a tone difference between the open and the frets. It just keeps everything like streamlined,
Gotcha.
in my
Okay.
opinion, anyway.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, do you do you kind of notice a little bit less like it's a very popular metal thing to get that open string kind of warble going whenever you
Yep.
pick real hard for open notes. Is there less or more of it? About the same?
Less for sure. It's tight. It's tight there.
Okay.
And that's a funny thing, yeah, when you're recording too, because it's like, okay, are we going to tune right to pitch and then pick it hard and let it go sharp and then come back?
Yeah.
Are we going to tune it a little bit flat so that when we nail it, it's on the pitch, and you kind of have to play with it so you find that sweet spot, and then make sure you replicate it.
Gotcha.
Metal is like surgery, man. It's recording it is like, oh my God, because I work in a studio, so like I could have a rock band in there, and it's like, oh, the guitar's a little out of tune. No, whatever, it sounds cool. Like
Yeah.
you're doing metal, it's like, no, you need to tune that chord. Okay, record that chord. Okay, you're gonna move up a half step, tune it to that. Okay, now record. So you spend 8 hours on a single guitar track, just making it right.
Yeah.
But I think that's what people expect, whether they realize it or not. Metal is machinery. It's perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
subgenres, you can get sloppier and stuff, but
Sure.
for the
Yeah.
most part, the technical stuff is like very just just under the microscope.
Yeah. It is interesting, and I've kind of talked about previous recording experience I had. I used to play in a thrash metal band, and it had technical moments, but for the most part, it was just fast, simple stuff,
Yep.
typical with thrash. And we recorded live room, and extremely uncommon for stuff like that. We
It is, yeah. How'd it
like
come out?
it came out pretty good.
That's cool. Because that can
It
be a vibe too, where if
it
you guys speed
definitely,
up and slow down together and
yeah,
it's tight, it's like, oh shit, you know?
it required some work in the
Mhm.
editing process. I think we did 3 or 4 takes
Mhm.
of 3 different songs, an intro and 2 songs really.
Yeah.
And we just took like the best verse, best chorus, whatever of each take,
Yep.
and then spliced them together. We had to do a little this would probably make purists kind of cringe, but we did have to
Mhm.
do some drum editing to try to get everything on
Oh,
beat, you
that's
know.
it's so funny that people get weird about that. That's like you gotta, what are you gonna do? It's like
There's
we don't have $200,000 budgets where we can just run it and run it and run it and run it,
yeah.
do a couple clicks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a like Fenrez or some black metal purist that's out there just like cussing at me or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Get out of here. I
Yeah.
know what you mean though. Yeah.
Um,
But that's sick, man. You did it live. That's cool.
yeah, it
Yeah.
and it had a little bit of a punk and hardcore, like sick of it all kind of influence too. So it kind
Mhm.
of worked for that. But um it was very weird and alien to me. I haven't done it before or since for
Yeah.
metal.
Yeah.
Uh
Do you know Psyopus?
oh yeah,
Psyopus? They did their records live.
that
Those
makes
rec those
that makes
records are them
sense.
playing together. Yeah, I'm friends with Chris, and he told me that. He was like, "Yeah, we rehearsed like 8 hours a day. We were obsessed. We were insane, and we went in there and we just played it." And I was like, "What?
Huh.
What?"
That
Yeah.
is fucking crazy.
Hmm.
Um that was one of the bands I would, blare on the car ride to gigs to kind of
Yeah.
get psyched up to go perform.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I love those guys.
for a pop punk gig, funny enough. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, I mean, amped up is amped up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, dude, for Replicire's music, I can only imagine the strenuous, hair-pulling amount of hours that would go into trying to get everything. Like for any kind of, I hate just throwing the label tech death or whatever, but very technical, kind of
Yeah.
very precise metal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's got to be grueling.
Oh,
Uh,
it took years off my life. It was because I did it all. I didn't end up mixing it. We sent it off to Jens Bagren, for the mix master, but I did all the engineering, all the production, all the editing, everything.
yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we tracked drums for 7 days, and then I probably edited for 2 weeks or something. Not that he's
Yeah.
bad; he's an incredible drummer, but we wanted it perfect.
Oh, sure.
And then yeah, guitars took 8 hours a song easily. Vocals, we booked 2 weeks of 8 hour days because we had, James had most of it written, but not all of it. We did a lot of back and forth leading up to it. But then when it came down to it, we tracked what we had, and then I just have stacks and stacks of like lyrics and songs and stuff, just like notebooks. And so if we hit a snag, I'd be like, okay, let me dig through. Oh, okay, this stuff kind of works and it's relevant to what you're saying, and let's work it. And so it was like half tracking, half creative, half getting the takes. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It was because then it's like, okay, so this part has weird hits, like, can you count them? And he's used to Black Crown, which is very 4/4,
sure.
very very round. If they're going to do something last minute, it's easy to feel.
Yeah,
Our stuff, has lots of chops and twists and turns and weird things, and I try to describe it to him, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, just let me do it until I get it. So 2 hours later, okay, I think you're getting closer. Like,
yeah.
so it was a lot, man. It was a lot.
That is a blight that I think a lot of musicians probably don't think about is, eh, and to be fair, the vocalist, I guess that could be the trade-off
Mhm.
for the lack of stuff that they have to carry in for gigs.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
but
he's, I mean, he would laugh about this. This isn't any kind of secret. He just he's not we're a bunch of nerds. We went to school for this, like we can talk theory and time signatures and blah, all that stuff, just like without, just easily. And then he's kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, can I just hear it? You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, let me explain it to you. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know? It's
I,
like,
I can
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. So we half laughing, half screaming, you know, trying
Sure.
to figure it out. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I went to college for music for like a year, and then after
yeah.
that I kind of withdrew.
Yep.
Um, Jazz guitar of all
Awesome.
things.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did pretty decent the first year, and then I was like, yeah, this ain't for me.
Dude,
Like,
jazz is like, yeah, I respect it. You know, that is like a level of understanding that I will never have. But the music itself never super spoke to me. And of course, going through Berkeley, which is a jazz-based school, it turned me off
yeah,
hard. You know, like my brain was packed full of jazz theory, and it's like this is just I can't do anything with this. You know, like
yeah. I have a deep appreciation, but fuck,
yeah,
it's a
you said
lot.
it. You said it.
What was your focus? Was it like composition or?
Music production and engineering
Okay,
was my
well, that makes
major.
sense.
Yep, but I got two bachelors from there, so I did that, and I did this other thing called professional music, which
Okay,
is sort of like their what an undeclared would be, maybe at another college.
sure.
So it's kind of like as long as you get enough credits based on, you know, whatever classes you take, you get the degree. So the music
Well, that's cool.
production, you know, trajectory was very focused. You take this
Hmm.
class, then you take this class, then you take this, then you take this. And then the pro music was like, all right, let's see. I can take a business class. I can take a composition class. I can take you know, some more private lessons. You know, so I could really just get whatever I wanted out of the school, you know,
Wow,
for an extra semester or whatever, and end up with the 2 degrees.
that's pretty
Not that it
cool.
matters. No job has ever been like, oh, show me your degree from Berkeley, you know. But I think I got a little extra, you know, a little extra stuff.
That is that is one thing I've heard from, a lot of like big producers is that like Eric Kertan and Kurt Ballou. I think whenever I was withdrawing from Marshall, I actually emailed Eric Kertan and Kurt Ballou,
Yeah,
and they actually were both nice enough to email me back, just some little kid, you
yeah.
know,
Oh, that's super cool.
and they both gave me really just very real advice. Um, Eric said that he has like one or two guys that work for him that have degrees, but he doesn't have one, and he's got
Yeah.
other guys that don't.
Yep.
So uh, really just gotta put in the hours doing the thing and
Yep.
uh, get more credits, like basically real life experience.
That's all it comes down to, really.
And
You know,
then
and all that information's out there.
oh yeah,
The college thing
now
just
more than ever,
forces you. Yeah, the college thing just forces you to do it, basically.
yeah,
You know.
kind of holds you accountable for it. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I think Kurt Ballou, his advice was basically take the money I would spend on school and buy gear and just start doing it.
That is so real. The I don't want to make it sound like, dude, I'm in debt my whole life from going to school. That's never gonna go away. You know what I mean? It's unbelievably if you're in a position where someone's gonna take care of it for you, your parents, whatever, cool. If you need to take out loans, just dude, go on YouTube, get an internship at a studio, go on YouTube, be obsessed with it. You'll go just as far. You know?
That's I guess that's kind of where I'm trying to be at now, like a
Yeah.
hobbyist engineer, just trying to pick up what I can where I can.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you could, man. I'm sure you
But
could.
but I always do this and rabbit trail on like cool topics, and then I
Yeah.
kind of neglect some of the more gear centric
Oh yeah,
ones.
yeah. Bring it back. What do you want to
Repeat.
know? Yeah.
uh, well, real quick, because I've people blow me up for this one. What tuning are you guys in?
Standard, 7 strings, B standard.
Okay.
Hmm.
Personally, when it comes to seven string, that's kind of what I prefer too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, just yeah, low B, you know, what nothing. I've messed around with alternative tunings, you know, drop tunings, right? Obviously,
sure.
lots of great metal bands do it. I just end up writing very cliche things that I'm not that I don't like. I love bands that use cliche, you know, like
Yeah.
name your band, Knocked Loose, fucking love
Yeah.
Knocked Loose. Dealer. Fucking Slipknot, old Slipknot. Oh my God, get out of here, dude. The best. But for some reason, for me, I don't know. The standard tuning just allows me maybe to get a little more creative to make something heavy. You know, a little denser, a little more dissonant, grosser.
Yeah,
I also the tension. I really like the tension. You
sure.
know, I play heavy strings anyway. I have like a 66 on my low B, and then I play 11s for the rest, and it's a 27-inch scale, so it's even stretched a little further. So it's very, very tight, tense
Yeah,
strings, picking really hard. It's hard when you start dropping and you start going up to even thicker strings. I don't know, it's not the same feel for me. So we messed around a little, but we always just end up playing the standard.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And what string gauge you say? 11 to what?
11 to, I might have a set here actually.
Okay,
Uh, is this right? Yeah, balanced. I use these D'Addario balanced tension.
nice.
So it's 11 to 50,
Okay.
and then I have a 66 on my low B.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's what I
Yeah,
do. Yep.
good deal. All right. Oh, and what were you guys using for amp tones or like plugins or reamping or
Yeah, we actually so our whole plan for the album was to track with a like kind of a temporary tone and then do a reamp deal, you know, for the
sure.
record itself. So I actually spent a lot of time tone chasing for a tone to track with because you know you don't want some shitty thing, right? You kind of want to hear a somewhat accurate
Sure.
representation of what you're doing. So I dug around on the internet and I found stems from different records that I liked, like August Burns Red. I think
Hmm.
their tones are just fucking incredible. And who else did I use? Damn, I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, I ended up taking stems and ran them through. You know, the XFX has like a tone match, right? So I'd look up what they used, set up the rig, run the tone match, and then we'd mess around, you know, with tones, right? See what felt good.
Yeah.
And we ended up going with one of the ones that I used, and then we tweaked it from there. So we used an Axe Effects with a tone match from various records that I liked, and that was our tracking tone. And then I sent it off to Jens, and I'm pretty sure he reamped it with a 5150, which is what we use live.
Okay.
We use a 5150, you know, with the tube screamer in front.
Yeah, yeah.
So and I think he said because we ended up getting on a Zoom call to finalize the mixing, and I was like, hey, I'm just curious, what did you reamp with? And he was like, I think I used a 5150 on one side and a Mesa on the other side. I was like, you think? Okay, you know, like cool, I guess, you know. So I think that's what is on there.
So,
Yeah,
I've watched a good few things with Jens and he just
yeah,
seems like just so like nonchalant, laid back, uh,
absolutely, absolutely.
amazing
Yeah.
tones.
Mhm.
Like good God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um I'd say between, you know, your engineering and you know, Jens putting the final touches on it, yeah,
yeah.
it's killer.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you, because
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
easy to lose perspective. You know, there were a lot of points where I was like, "This sucks, throw it away." You know, it's just it's inevitable. It's happened to every record I've ever made. You know, for my music. So, thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
I been reading the bio that Will typed up for
Hmm.
the new album.
Yep.
Saw that you guys were at one point kind of looking like, you know, just write bangers for the live crowd, just something to kind of get people going.
Yep.
And kind of over the course of, you know, everything transpiring, you know,
Yeah.
2019, 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
I This is going on YouTube, so I don't know if I'm allowed to say the C
Oh.
word.
Oh. It might be a hot word. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I get you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we that which shall not be named.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The dark times.
but yeah, it I guess that was sort of like a refocus to like, you know, just write the best music possible, right?
It
That
was a
kind
bit
of
of that, and it was also like that was like kind of a rough plan, you know, because
sure.
you know, Pohawk was joining the band officially. He was filling in for a minute, and then he officially joined, and we were just kicking ideas back and forth, like what kind of stuff do you want to write? And I was like, I think I want to go simpler, You know, like there are certain moments on Do Not Deviate that seem to resonate with a live crowd, where the rest of the, you know, they're just staring at us, you know, like what the fuck is that, right? Not that we're overly technical, but it's not like breakdowny. It's not like, you know, it's not
Sure.
making people mosh and stuff. You know, it's more like
Yeah.
cerebral. Like people are just like watching us. And I was like, I think I want to lean more into that, you know, just a vicious, you know, kind of sound. And Pohawk was like, I think I could be into that. And then we started writing together, and he is such an accomplished guitar player. You know, it was like he was writing technical stuff, and we would fight bad, you know, like button heads together, you know what I mean, for a while. And then we kind of reached sort of a, you know, an agreement where we could work together. And he started to get a little more what I was going for, and I started to get, you know, more what he was going for. And so there was a good, I don't know, I want to say a good year where we didn't accomplish anything. You know, we just he like would walk away like fuck you, you know, like but you know, it got to a point where I could come in with shit, you know, a half of a riff, a half of an idea or a theme, you know, maybe a couple
Yeah.
of power chords, whatever. And I'd be like, dude, this is kind of all I got. And he'd be like, okay. And he'd take it and he'd just kind of finish it. I'm like, that's it. That's what it should be. And he's like, okay, I get it. And then it could go here. And then it would just take off.
Hmm.
You know, so Pohawk really pushed a lot of this music. You know, I
Yeah.
can't sit here and take credit and say I sat down and I composed all these songs. Like it was us two together, but with him with a guitar in his hand and me almost over his shoulder. Like, yeah, now this part. Okay, no. Oh, now this. Oh, now go up here. Now, oh, now if it's like dun, 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 you know what I mean? Like it was a lot of like backseat driving, but like you know what I mean?
Sure,
Like
sure.
producing. I don't know. I produced the writing, I guess. Right? It's like
Oh yeah.
so it was a really and the rest of the band too. Like Zach and Joey were there a lot, you know, putting in their 2 cents, and then we'd send it off to James. You know, that
Yeah.
was kind of how we were working. So yeah, that was how it went from an idea of being just like heavy hitters, simple, to like it became us. You know, it's heavier, I think, than our previous records, but
Hmm.
it still has the technicality, the weird time signatures, the Dillinger-esque moments. You know, you name it, right? It's in there.
I think which I love technical playing. I love lead playing. I'm a big nerd for that. You know, uh, watch like old Mike Badio and Sean Lane videos all the time.
Yeah,
But I have to say, one of my favorite, like as I was kind of like checking everything out, listening to as much as material as I could,
yeah,
old stuff and the new album.
yeah,
One of my favorite elements, I'll say, of the overall songwriting is James throwing in almost like Michael Akerfeld-esque, you know, clean vocal
yeah.
passages and stuff, and kind of just adds uh at least the vocal parts. It's musically, you know, something pretty different than like Opeth, but just that little sprinkling of it in there.
Yeah, he does have a similar voice, and we kind of got lucky because our previous singer Evan had the same thing going. And James can do it too. You know, it just
Yeah,
seems to. Opeth was one of my biggest influences early on.
sure.
For some reason, I find myself listening to the Damnation record these days. The you know the mellow one, right? When they did
Yeah,
Deliverance and Damnation. But yeah, they were like the holy grail for me, and like
oh
early
yeah,
Replacire stuff that like never got released was basically like Opeth ripoffs, you know.
yeah,
So now, yeah, we have a little bit of that element with the clean vocals, and it's not like we go, oh, do an Opeth part here. It's just like, oh, sounds a little bit like Mike, you know, and that,
sure.
you know, yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. The
yeah,
Ghost Reveries was I wore that CD out in my little Walkman.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that one has Bang of the Hounds, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when that came out. Oh yeah.
yeah. That album is just like all over the place. It's killer.
Hmm.
I was that I was that or Watershed the last album before Michael ditched the death metal growls and stuff.
I feel like it's Watershed, but you're
I think you might
testing
be
my
right.
my discography knowledge. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think
yeah.
I think Watershed it was at least like he started dialing it back and then after that
Mm.
was just gone. He's like, "Nah, I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
not
I think he
doing it."
just got over it, right? The
Yeah.
metal thing, and yeah, some of those newer records by them are interesting. It's like going for maybe the '70s prog thing,
Yeah.
which I love. I love Gentle Giant. and Yes and the old
Same.
prog stuff, Um, but yeah, the metal days of Opeth, yeah, love it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Shaped me a lot.
like Sorceress is a banger, like they
Hmm.
definitely have some killer tunes, but it's like I guess you can always go back and listen to the old records
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I saw them and they played some of that newer stuff, the newer prog stuff, and live it actually hits pretty hard. Like a lot of
Yeah.
the way the bass and the kick are interlocked, it's like it feels really good, you know,
Hmm.
um, which I thought was cool. I didn't expect that based on what I heard from the records, but you can't shit talk those guys. They're
Oh yeah,
in
they're
a league
great
their own. They can do whatever they
for
want.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Um, Big fan of Frederick Kesson. I guess that's how you say his name,
Mm.
but Kesson.
that sounds right. Yeah. Oh, he's an amazing player. His solos,
Yeah.
jeez, just telling a story. You know.
Yeah, I first found him back when he was still with Arch Enemy doing like
Mhm.
the Doomsday Machine record and
Yeah,
just kind of like followed him with Opeth after that ever since.
yeah,
Um let's uh let's kind of go back a little bit
yeah,
and talk about kind of you coming into your own musically, growing up like
yeah.
we talked about a little bit of this off camera
Hmm.
if you don't care to like
Of
recamp a
course.
little bit, but
Yeah,
yeah, kind of talk about you getting into music and
yeah,
getting into guitar and metal and all that.
yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, what I was saying before when we were off camera was I feel like I know myself personally, and I feel like maybe a lot of people can resonate with this. Is like you get into something like metal, heavier music, which is very niche, very extreme, because maybe you need something, right? For me, I grew up in an abusive household. It wasn't a good place, and I remember putting on Slipknot's first album in my headphones. I remember I bought it at a store. I didn't know what it was. It was scary, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" And I snuck it and I bought it, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, "Oh my god!" He's screaming and he's angry and he's saying these things that I feel and that I want to say but I can't, and it man, it locked in with me. I was like, "This is it. This feels right." Um, so yeah, I guess like that kind of started my journey of like heavy music and it being important to me and I always wanted to make it and I always was a little bit obsessed with music. I remember being like a little kid and like the radio would be on. I'd be like, I want a guitar. I want my guitar to sound like that. And another song going, I want my guitar to sound like, I didn't know what I was talking about, right? I was a little kid. But I just knew like something about guitar, right? Something about guitar. And I remember I got one and I sucked. I had no natural ability, right? It's not like I'm just some savant. I was just like, I couldn't even fucking tune the thing. And I would make the low string as low as it would go and I'd hang it down to my knees and I just hit it, brown, 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 brown. And I started getting lessons. And my guitar teacher growing up, his name was Ben. Still friends with him to this day. He got me into Opeth. He showed me King Diamond. He showed me just all kinds of incredible music and how to play, of course. And yeah, I always just wanted to write music. I always just wanted to play. I was in a band in high school. We'd cover like Dream Theater and Dragon Force and stuff like that. We wrote our own proggy stuff. You know, it was with another guitarist. His name was Ryan, and he was incredibly good. He was a shredder. He could just shred. And so by me not being as good, I leveled up. Being in a band with him, like, oh shit, I got to keep up. So that grew me like crazy. Um, yeah, and then college came around. I actually went to pre med. I did pre med for a year before I went to Berkeley. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was like, I'm trying pre med, and I was going crazy being there, man. Just like I had friends, but they're not like real friends. People that
Yeah.
you really connect with. And I was like, these are not my people. This is not my trajectory. It's not my life. So I would get up at like fucking 5 a.m. or some shit. I would go to the gym. I would go to my first class at 8. I would go to classes all day till like 5, study till like 10, play guitar till like midnight or 1 a.m., go to bed, because I was getting ready for my Berkeley audition. So I was like, I got to get through my day of shit and I got to practice. And I applied, I got in, and then I switched gears. I went to school, went to Berkeley, School for Music, and put the band together. And yeah, I guess that's a quick little synopsis of how,
Yeah.
how it came about. And since then we've just been pushing it. Yeah.
That's anybody who comes from the background of, I mean, like if you get into music academically at all, Berkeley is kind of always sort of like, like that's
Hmm.
everybody's pinnacle, I guess, in a
Yeah,
way.
it has a
So,
reputation, 100%.
so it's fascinating always especially fascinating to me. And I've had so many guests that don't come from a theory or academic background musically,
Mm,
um, which is perfectly fine.
absolutely.
Yeah, almost anybody could tell you don't need it. There's
Yeah,
plenty of people that have done awesome stuff with or without it.
totally.
But yeah, I don't know. There is something, and I'm sure you could appreciate this. I know you're into bodybuilding too. I'm
Yep.
avid weightlifter too.
Oh,
There
great.
is something to just trying to push yourself to the best of your ability, trying to see how far you can take yourself and just being motivated and disciplined and driving yourself as absolutely far as you can go. Um,
That is very well said. Very well said. Yep.
well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
But
there's so many parallels there between
yeah.
weightlifting, bodybuilding, music, like
Oh, for sure.
sitting there with the metronome, one click at a time,
Yeah.
and then back down, right? It's the same as like reps, right? It's like, okay, I did 10, next week I'm gonna do 11. I didn't get 11, let me try it again, Like,
Right.
oh, that passage is still killing me. I got to knock it down. Okay, I got to knock it back up. And just every day, the consistency, getting better and trying to reach that potential that you have, you know. And metal's a great example of that. I mean, it's extreme,
Yeah.
it's and that's the tricky part though is embracing that technicality and that extreme skill that you put all those years into mastering, but also creating something that has emotional content
Hmm.
that sounds like music, that doesn't just sound like notes, and on paper this makes sense. It's like, yeah, but how does it make you feel? Does it make you sing along? Does it make you move? Does it make you, like, I don't know, feel something in your gut that's like, oh yeah, this is cool, right? It's that's what's hard about creating in general, but I'd say especially technical music. Like
Yeah.
separating the cerebral from the emotional, and or not separating it, rather bringing them together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's another which I make analogies between weightlifting and guitar and stuff. Probably too much,
yeah. No, no, you're
but
speaking. You're amongst friends here.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But like so I became a little obsessed with trying to do, lead playing and shredding and all that stuff and
Hmm.
spent, hours of the metronome, all that.
Yep.
And then started playing in bands
Hmm.
and songwriting, even if it is just like, you're playing extreme metal, but just the idea of just songwriting, learning how to not just make riff salad, but actually compose a coherent piece.
Yeah,
It's kind of like um it's kind of like if you are training purely for aesthetic, like bodybuilding,
yeah,
and then you try to go do something like extremely athletic, like run a decathlon
yeah,
or
yeah.
like take up like boxing, you find
This
out
is
very quickly,
this is not my wheelhouse.
yeah, this is not
Yeah.
what I was
Yeah, man. Yeah.
just yeah, it's cool and it's
Mm,
great that you did that, but if you're wanting to step over here, that's a whole different, skill set that you need
mhm,
to train for separately,
mhm.
or
Big
uh,
time.
it's almost like, you need to do a little bit of powerlifting first or something like that, and then you can transition to bodybuilding or vice versa.
Build a base. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I like that you said riff salad, because that's something that I try to avoid so hard,
Yeah.
and that's what we spent a lot of time on, is like, okay, these parts are cool. How do we tie them together? How do we do a variation so that, hey, you remember that second thing we played? Okay, here it is again. How does everything connect, where it's not just like part A, part B, part C, part D, part E, part F, it's like, uh, yeah, riff salad bands that do riff salad is something that I'm not super into. Some people like it, it's fine. I'm not here to trash talk anyone's taste. But it's something that I try so hard to avoid and like you're saying, get
Yeah,
more into the songwriting part of it and create a song, not just parts.
sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite examples for that was always I'm a the first one I can think of off the top of my head because it's the most extreme example.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick on After the Burial for just a second.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
they eventually, I don't listen to them as much as I used to, but I kind of keep tabs. They've evolved into great songwriters.
Cool.
Um, you know, but the album that I've had so many friends say is like their best was the earlier one, Rare Form, I think is
I'm
what it was
not
called.
familiar. I'll have to check it out.
It is, to me, it was jarring how disjointed and riff salad that
Oh
album
wow.
is. And it is like
Yeah.
so many people's favorite.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Like
Interesting.
like literally the very next album is so much better written. And
Yeah.
they would probably agree.
Yeah.
Um, like and from there I'm sure they've just refined it more and more every album.
Hmm.
But and I was my high school band, I was the world's worst at writing the riff salad.
Yeah.
Um, P
We all go
P
through it. I was too.
and I at
Yeah.
first I thought, it's like, oh, it's kind of like Between the Buried and Me, where it's just like, all these different styles
I'm
and
glad you said it and not me because we get compared to them sometimes.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh, I want like because I feel like that is very riff salad, and ours is a little more together. But I guess I don't know. The people have spoken. They hear a similarity. But I'm glad you brought that. That's who I was thinking when you were saying this whole thing. Yeah.
like I felt like there was a lot of early 2000s bands that kind of, and I think it was a little bit more acceptable then,
Mm,
to kind of have very jarring transitions.
mm,
Dillinger Escape Plan is another great example.
mm.
Um, there's a I Wrestled a Bear once. Like it was
I
almost
actually I
cool
used
to,
to love that band. I used to listen to that band a lot. Yeah. I
yeah,
don't know why I loved it. Yeah.
no, they were fun. I saw them
Yeah.
live. They're a
Yeah.
fun band.
Yep.
But yeah, just to have like these crazy like blast beat or almost like a Cypress riff and then like a smooth jazz chord
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
mellow stuff right
They,
like
they would
the
do it in a
next
way
beat.
though that was almost like it was like comical, but it was
Yeah.
still somehow serious. They
Yeah.
did a good job at that. I don't know
Like
how, but they
kind of
did.
kind of tongue in cheek, I guess.
Tongue in cheek. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And I guess that's what I kind of was trying to go for, and
Mhm.
it just sounded like we were changing songs.
Right. Right.
I didn't know, I didn't understand it enough to do it accurately, so it just sounded bad.
Yep. Yep. I can relate. I can relate. I was listening to a really old song that we made way before even our first album, and I was like, I remember this being bad. Let me see how bad it was. I was like, oh, this is real bad. It was just like it's exactly what you're saying. It's just like random riff, sweep arpeggio part, like upbeat, almost
Yeah.
reggae. I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I think this was cool? Like produced like absolute shit. Like just yeah.
But if anybody tried to make those comparisons, like, now though,
Mm.
I would dismiss it.
Oh yeah.
You you guys have a lot of variety in your song structures, but they make sense. Like
Oh cool.
they're movements. They're not very like crazy, juxtapositions between verse to verse B or whatever. Like
Hmm.
it's, it's not a jolting transition or anything. Like
Cool.
everything makes sense in the context. It's
Awesome.
the changes and transitions are more compared to, I guess, like classical or something where you have movements as opposed to, like a pop structure like verse, pre-chorus, chorus.
Yeah. Thank you. I like that. It's very validating to hear, man. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. When we were writing, we would use those terms too. We'd be like, all right, this is kind of like the verse. This is kind of like the chorus. This one could have more of like a pre-chorus type of thing. You know, like we tried to use those terms, you know,
Yeah.
to keep things like you said coherent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are definitely cool moments that will call back to other parts of the song or,
Hmm.
there's just enough I guess like kind of ear candy moments to
Yeah.
resonate with somebody to still capture somebody like, hey, there's that
Mm.
again.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad you caught that. Yeah, that was a big deal when we were composing. Like, does this make sense? You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Um, where would you say, well, this is definitely one of those things that I'm sure is a moving target throughout somebody's life, but
Yeah.
uh we'll narrow it down to just the most recent album. Where would
Hmm.
you say you were kind of drawing the most influence from? And it could be obviously it could be multiple sources, but um,
Hmm. Very good question. Let's see. Two bands that came to mind were the Faceless, especially the first two albums,
mhm.
Akeldama and Planetary Duality, and Cattle Decapitation, Monolith of Inhumanity was their
Yeah,
second to last record. Those riffs and the song structure and stuff, I think they're masterpieces. You know, I was listening to those a lot. It doesn't really transfer, I think, to some of the stuff we wrote, but I've been listening to a lot of just like knuckle dragging deathcore. You know, like Paleface. I don't even know
yeah,
Paleface. Just heavy. Dealer, Knocked Loose. You know, just stuff that's like heavy, right? Just
sure.
fuck you, heavy. Gung. You know, stuff that, oh my God, makes my blood boil. I don't know how you're making that simplicity so good, but you're doing it. And I was trying to do that along with Pohawk, of course, you know, and our stuff is a little faster, a little more technical, a little more weird, a little more dense, you know, but that was what was interesting me at that point,
Yeah,
you know. So some of the techier stuff from the Faceless, you know, the faster, grindy but technical stuff from Cattle Decap, the I don't want to say mindless, but just fucking visceral shit of the deathcore,
yeah,
and even some hardcore Hatebreed, you know, comes to mind. Uh, Black Dahlia Murder, Ritual, the album Ritual, love that album. Dillinger Escape Plan, probably one of my favorite bands on the planet. You know, so yeah, kind of a mashup of that kind of stuff. And then
gotcha.
on our recent single, "The Center That Cannot Hold," which is the title track, we really went for a Slipknot vibe on that one, especially in the vocals.
Huh.
You know, James is not a huge Slipknot fan. Like he gets it. He's like, yeah, I get why they're probably. He's not. It never really like was a big part of his
Sure.
listening. So I was like, hey, just listen to some of these songs with me. We were sitting in the studio, and I played some live stuff. I played the first album. I was like, do you hear this? Do you hear how like angry, how visceral, how he's screaming his throat out? Like he vomits on this record, you know? Like, and he's like, okay, he's like, I fucking get it. Like, let's do it. You know, so that song when we were composing it, we weren't like, let's write a Slipknot song. You know, we kind of we started with the intro. Joey, our drummer, I was like, hey man, write like some rhythmic hits, you know, maybe like a breakbeat kind of thing. And then he's like, okay, cool. And he composed it. And so we took those hits, those just turned into the riff, basically, dun 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 dun, you know, whatever the chugs were.
Yeah.
Wrote the rest of the song. Then when it came to vocals, I was like, all right, dude, I want you to like go crazy, like lose your mind on this, you know. And for a lot of the record, it was a lot of like line by line,
Hmm.
part by part, go back, fill things in, you know, like, you know, just typical recording, you know, to make it as good as it can be. For this, it was like full takes through, run out of breath, gasp for air. It ends, do it again, you know, no rest. Just like boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 like sets and reps, you know, laps, just
Huh.
like just doing it. And we did that for a day, like a whole day, you know, and it wasn't until the end of the night when he's really like about to die, you know, that we got those takes, you know. And so that was in the vocal performance, and I got to give him credit too. He had no fear. He was like, do it again, you know, just like lose it, you know, go, do it, you know, like he was ready to just hit the ground if he had to, you
Yeah.
know. And even the next day after, uh, I was like, hey, what's up, man? You ready? And he's like, he has like cold sweats and he's like shivering. I was like, dude, you okay? And he's like, I don't know, like I don't feel good, like something's wrong. And I was like, okay, like do we have to go to the hospital? What do we have to do? He's like, I don't know. So we like, we got him some food, we got him some water, gave him a couple hours. He kind of came back to life. We didn't record that day. We missed the day of recording, but
Oh,
he really left it all on the floor, so to speak, for that song.
wow.
So definitely big Slipknot influence on that one, specifically in the vocals. So yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff I was listening to and into at the time. Yeah, and
You know
even
what?
now.
Kind of now that you say that, I never in a million years would have thought about it until you pointed out. Thinking back on it now, just how, yeah, I don't know, just how aggressive he's coming with it.
Hmm.
I can definitely, at least in James's performance, obviously the music, uh, rhythmically, I guess I could hear a little bit of that, like a little
Hmm.
bit of early Slipknot, like kind of Joey Jordison, like just driving it, and
Yeah,
then yeah, like I always like the description of Corey Taylor. Sounds like he's, gonna puke his throat out or something.
totally. Yeah, yeah. That's what I wanted. Just the uh, the visceralness. Don't worry about
Sure.
enunciation so much. Don't worry
Yeah,
about getting every word out. It doesn't need to be pretty. Just get the emotion.
sure.
Get just and some of the stuff we're talking about in the song is like just thinking about jerking the wheel in traffic. Just like those intrusive thoughts. Just
Yeah.
suicide, depression. Low moments, but there's also a background, a backbone of don't give in to that, like fight against it. You're stronger than this, which I always thought bands like Slipknot or any band that had, let's say, depressing content, there was always a feeling of, yeah, but you're not in it alone. We're here together. This is our community. This is like, we're going to get through it. And that's what I always thought was a lot of the power came
Yeah.
from, with this stuff. So that's kind of what we went for with that one.
What goals do you think you have set both for yourself personally as a musician as well as within the context of the band?
That's a great question. I'm really curious to see if this latches on at all, if it resonates with anybody, if we get some good sales, some good offers, like who knows, I know we did our best work. I know that it's going to outlive us by 1,000 years, which is pretty cool when you create some art. You kind of make your stamp, chunk.
Yeah.
As far as touring goes, I would love to play some shows. It's kind of prohibitively expensive right now. Uh, I don't have a touring vehicle. We don't have a rehearsal space. We have two members out of state. That being said, we've done it before. If something comes along that we can't pass up, we'll make it happen. But it's not like I'm going to sit here and say, "Oh yeah, huge tour on the record. We're going to support it."
Yeah.
It's like no, it was like giving birth, trying to get this thing out. So enjoy it, please. Like if we go on the road, it'll be a very special thing. Because I hate to bring it down to money, but dude, I live in Boston. Rent is like 2 grand. If I don't work every
Oh
fucking
my
day,
God.
I'm gonna be on the street. It's like taking a couple weeks off to go tour and spend money on the tour is very difficult, and we're not in a place where the band is profitable, which is just the state of things. It's just
Yeah.
we're not huge. We're a moderate to small band. And that's just how it goes. Um,
Yeah.
so as far as goals, I'm just taking it one step at a time. I'm gonna see how it does when it comes out. See what people think. You know, um, and that's about all I got. That's about as far forward as I'm thinking about it.
For sure.
Yeah,
Um, well, hi, playing let's play a hypothetical, I guess.
yeah,
So obviously, ideally,
mm,
the album blows up,
yeah.
um, goes triple platinum.
Triple
You
plat.
guys, you
Yeah,
guys, you guys become the next Metallica, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so that's all, what we're hoping for. But
Sure.
even if it doesn't,
Yeah.
would Replacire still be able to exist in its uh current state, like at least stay as, a musical outlet for you guys and a studio project, if nothing else.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not at the point where I'd want to disband it or anything like that. You know, I love all the guys in the band. When it's really funny our relationship because like when we get together and work, it's like it can get tense. You know, we can
Yeah.
fight. We can be at each other's throats when we're like we did a photo shoot recently for the release and so there's no pressure, right? We were chilling. We're best buds. Grab beers,
Yeah.
grab dinner. You know, it's awesome. I love those guys. So you know, definitely there's going to be some decompression after this. I don't really have much motivation to compose, to pick up my guitar. I haven't played in quite some time, to be honest. If we did tour, I'd have to fucking practice, learn all that shit, you know. So
Oh
it's which
God.
is an undertaking in itself. The other guys are very distant. They love playing. They
Yeah.
could pick it up, no problem. You know, it's more me. I'd be the weak link. Um, but I think over time there'll definitely be more music, whether it's an EP, whether it's an album. You know, we'll see. But it would probably be a good amount of time before it happened.
Sure.
And we'd probably approach it a little different. You know, there was a lot of pressure on Pohawk this time around, and we even talked about it. He was like, "I'd really like to see you do more. You know, like compose more." So if I were to say, "All right, guys, let's light it back up. Let's start like writing. Let's get in a routine," I would have to come with more material and say, "Here's a song idea. Here's half a song idea. Here's a full." You know, so the dynamic would definitely be different, and I think that would shape the sound even a bit differently as
Hmm.
well. So, so short answer, yes. You know,
Yeah.
a studio project definitely. Mm.
Um, which I don't know if you're like me, which it kind of sounds like you are.
Oh yeah.
The after tracking certain parts, the idea of having to perfect them and memorize them and play them
Oh yeah.
is just a kind of a mountain.
Daunting. Very daunting.
Like
Oh yeah.
I've tracked solos, I'm like, will I be able to actually
Yeah.
relearn what I just
Yeah.
played?
Yeah, that's cool that we got it on the record, but
Yeah.
this has to keep existing. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know. It was
Which
a cool idea in theory. Yeah.
and I'm sure in the songwriting stages and trying to discuss ideas in between everybody, I'm sure it could get plenty like music nerd,
Yeah.
with a lot of the theory flying back and forth,
Mhm.
enough for James to completely abstain from it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
but it's been an ongoing topic on this show, uh that tech death can there's a fine line with tech death,
Yeah.
right? And I think you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about already. Um, one of the reasons I like Replacire so much is because they firmly plant on the right side of that line,
Mhm.
to where it's technical, but it never gets it's not nerdy sounding.
Yeah, it
Not
doesn't
I
get
know,
too wanky, right? It's kind of
sure.
keeps
Uh,
it
too
in the
wanky,
riff.
or if it goes off like I think one thing bands, and I've been guilty of this before with stuff I've written that never saw the light of day,
Mhm.
um, where you get so in your own head exploring what to you is a cool musical idea, and it might be, but you're venturing off down a rabbit hole of cool ideas that you've kind of missed the boat a little bit, as far as well, is this still a death metal song?
Right. Right.
Like,
Yep.
what kind of territory are we going? And sometimes it's cool to experiment and go into different territories. Sometimes it's like you completely turned it into something else,
Mhm.
and you're alienating where you were originally coming from.
Yeah, just going down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
And and I think Replacire does a really good job of adding variety, going to these different places, but it's still firmly rooted in what the point is, and that's to keep it, everything heavy. Everything serves the
Mhm.
purpose of the heavy overall sound of the song. Even if you have a mellow, chill part or a catchy part, catchy
Mm,
part or clean vocal here,
mm,
it's still heavy. It's still death
mm.
metal, you
Cool.
know?
Thank you, man. Thank you. That's high praise. I very much appreciate that. That was an ongoing conversation in the whole process for every decision we made.
Where how would you try to describe tr was it, I mean, was it a conscious effort, do you think, to try to avoid going too far into exploring cool musical palettes or whatever?
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
were
Oh,
there like
without a
some,
doubt.
so there were some like, all right, let's reel it in kind of moments for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, it took us what like 7 years to make this thing. You know,
Yeah.
we would get three-quarters through a song, listen to it, and be like, oh, okay, half of this is trash. You know, delete. Okay, we have up to 30 seconds. What happens now?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'd rework it. Okay, cut it. We'd rework it, and then all right, trash the whole song. There's stuff that we just
Hmm.
totally abandoned. You know, and some of them made it. Some of them survived and
Yeah.
became what they were supposed to be. But definitely, like if it went off the rails, if it started to lose integrity,
Hmm.
become riff salad, become venturing off somewhere else too linear, yeah, we'd cut it. We just cut it right back down. And sometimes we'd all agree. Sometimes it'd be me like, no, we're not doing it. Like I
Yeah.
don't care. I don't care how long we spent. Kill it. So yeah, there was a lot of really being
Gotcha.
hypercritical. And I try to listen like I'm a listener. And like a not the creator, which is hard because you're so inside it. You know every note, everything. Which you, unless you go and learn someone's whole album, you're never gonna be have that perspective. So to maintain some outside perspective is very difficult. But that was how I tried to listen to it. Like, okay, this is something that I would want to hear, right, as opposed to something I would not want to hear.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, i- do you guys ever have to, when you are in the songwriting process and you're kind of deciding what stays, what goes,
Hmm.
um, is there ever any kind of battle with like ego, either for yourself, having to let a riff go, or at least to pocket it for later,
Oh, big time.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We worked through it each time, but there were some vicious fights.
Oh, really?
Vicious fight. Oh yeah, dude. Like, man, oh man, yeah. We had to have sit downs, band meetings, therapy sessions. Like
Oh, man.
unofficial therapy. We didn't have a therapist, but we'd just be like, okay, we got to talk through this.
Sure.
Everyone got really mad last time, or I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. It's just business. We got to figure this out. It wasn't personal. It just yeah, I can be very direct. I'm very like this isn't about you and your feelings. This is about this thing that we're making, and this isn't good. So we need to do different.
Sure.
Same for me. I wrote something. This I wrote this part. It sucks. Get rid of it. It's okay. But not everyone has that mentality, and some people are more sensitive, and it takes all kinds of people to make the world go around and make a
Yeah.
project go forward. So you just gotta kind of deal with that stuff. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of fighting for sure.
Yeah.
But we stuck it out. No one quit. No one gave up. Everyone wanted this thing to go forward. As much as we may have hated each other at some points, we stuck it through, and we're all still here, and we got this thing. And I think the fact that it survived, that we survived, uh, we were able to make some really cool art. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, and not to rip off from a different podcast, but
yeah,
I listen to Riff Hard all the time with
mm,
A.O. Levy,
yeah,
and lots of good little tidbits of information there for listeners.
yep,
But no, I heard one um on a recent episode where he kind of talked about the same thing,
yeah,
and it kind of depends on how much a person spends their time writing, like how much they
mm,
write, how much
mm,
material they actually produce. And,
mm.
like maybe like when you're younger band starting off, so everyone says you have the first half of your life to write your first record, right?
Dude, that is so true.
But
Yeah,
like, like when you've only written 5 to 10 songs, Well, you're probably going to be a little bit more guarded and it's a little bit more attached and invested emotionally into those
Yep.
or those ideas anyway, versus, you know, you've been sitting at home writing all these demos and you've got like 20 to 30 songs. It's like you're not going to get your feelings hurt if they want to ditch this riff or change a riff or something.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good point. Yeah, just the amount of experience. And that speaks to our dynamic as well. You know, like Joey, who's a very great drummer and one of my good friends. He's younger. He's the youngest guy in the band. He's never made a record before. So a lot of times when I would criticize or want to change things, you know, he'd have a problem with it. Where you know I've done this will be the third record with this band. I've made records in other bands. I make records for a living, you know, as a producer.
yeah,
Like if someone's like, Eric, you know, I don't know if this is really working. I'm like, okay, like, what do you want to change? You want to get rid of it? What do you want to, it's like, there's no emotional attachment, you know, it's just the creative process and I don't take offense to it. There were some things that I fought for that I felt strongly about and I made a case for it. You know what I
sure.
mean? But for the most part, it's like, okay, I'm listening. What do we got to do? So definitely the experience level. I think you're absolutely right. It makes a big difference. James has been doing this for so long. He's you know, he was like, I could literally be like, dude, that fucking sucks, and he'd be like, sure, all right, you know, what do I do? Like, you know, there was never a moment of contention
Yeah.
in the creative process with him. You know, it was smooth. Yeah.
It's always good to have kind of a mixed dynamic like that too.
Mm-hmm.
The band I was the most active with, it was a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was the youngest. I was the baby of that band
Oh, okay.
and, you know, hadn't done as much as the other guys at that point.
Yep.
Our singer was the oldest and he had toured, he had done that, you know, he had all
Yep.
these contacts. He been there, done that.
Yeah.
Um, so that was definitely a humbling and learning experience for me,
I
for
bet.
sure.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of times where they had to check me for being an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. And you learn from that, right? You get over it. You look back. You
Absolutely.
go, oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it was just one of those things. I thankfully I was at least self-aware enough to know I was like, okay, I'm in the minority on this. I need to kind of reevaluate the situation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. We had a dynamic of like, okay, like I had to flex my authority once or twice, you know, be like, guys, you know, this is my band. I don't run it like a what's the word? Dictatorship.
oh yeah,
But you know, I do get final say. You know, we can vote or whatever, but it's not a democracy. You know, if it's something that I'm on the fence about and and more people want it, okay, sure. If it's something that I think is a yes or no, then I get the yes or no. And not everyone really liked that, but I was like, yeah, this is just how it's got to be. You know, and it was very rare that it came to that. You know, for the most part it was a group effort that everyone got heard, everyone got to put their 2 cents in, and I was flexible when I had to be flexible, but it was kind of like, look, I get executive say, and we move from there when it's necessary. You know,
see that's an interesting dynamic in and of
mm,
itself.
yeah,
And off the top of my head, I can't think of too many other guests I've had the privilege of speaking with where they were in that position.
mm,
Um, so,
yeah,
uh, I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, we can all think of bands like that, like Megadeth, Nine Inch Nails, The
yep,
Faceless, even.
totally,
Um, so I know you said that there were a couple times that you had to, you know, flex that authority. Is there mentally or anything, is there any kind of apprehension with that? Is that ever like feel awkward or off-putting to you at all? Or is it just kind of goes with getting it done? Like
yeah.
it's
It's
just
just
more,
business. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just business. Just getting it done. I have a vision for it, you know, and I need those guys to achieve the
sure.
vision. It's so that's why it's like I will listen, plead your case. I will listen to it
Yeah,
you know, as much as egoless as I can. You know,
sure.
this is purely about the thing. But if I feel a certain way, you know, it's like I'm going to trust my instinct here. and I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to kind of say, put my foot down, so to speak, you know. But again, it's not like the whole process was like that. Like 90% of it was just us being like, yeah, this is good. Like, this is good. You guys think so? Okay, should we change it? You know, it was like very collaborative, most of it. And then, you know, maybe 5 to 10% was like, no, I'm going to die on this hill. This is going here, you know, like,
Sure.
right. Yeah.
I and kind of thinking back on it, I guess in a couple different instances, I had I had a high school band where I basically wrote everything on guitar and had some ideas for drums, bring it to everybody, end
Yep.
up teaching a couple of the other guys what to play,
Yep.
and it kind of became sort of my band slash mine and the drummers
Yeah.
more than anything.
Yep.
And I didn't really care for it, and and in hindsight, it kind of made me a little bit egotistical.
Hmm.
Um, but it was one of those weird things. It's like, well, I'm calling all the shots, so it's
Yeah. And you know, when you're the band leader too, like all the financial responsibility falls on you, like all the planning, all the everything. So it's sort of like, dude, what
yeah.
what do I get in return for that? I get a little extra say. You know, give me
Oh
like a
yeah.
tiny little extra power in
Oh
our in
yeah.
our in our group dynamic, just to say, hey, thanks for you know, not having a retirement plan
Sure.
so that we can have this band, you know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I ended up
Yeah.
booking shows
Yeah.
too. Like,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yep.
it was I didn't care for it. It's probably why I didn't go
Yeah.
very far.
Oh yeah, man. It's all the other stuff that drags you down, you know.
Versus the later band, my thrash
Mhm.
band,
Yep.
um, way more like songwriting was open. Me and the other guitar player would typically write a bunch of ideas. We'd come in, and then it was just everybody kind of threw in their 2 cents for different parts,
Mhm.
arrangements.
Yep.
Everything was just very straightforward, very,
Yeah.
no real emotions tied into anything.
Hmm.
Um, it was just what was a cool idea, what worked, what didn't work.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the
and
best way to approach it. You know, sort of
yeah,
distance yourself from it. You know, and at least in the creative process, you know, when it starts to get closer and closer, it's like okay, now it's maybe time to be a little more emotionally attached. But when it's all just kind of brainstorming, it's like yeah, just shoot stuff down, go with stuff. You know, just don't let it affect
yeah,
you. This isn't about you as a
yeah,
person. You know, this is about our this thing that we're creating. You know,
absolutely.
yeah,
It's like hangout time is when we go get pizza afterwards. This is
yeah,
just
yeah.
creating.
Exactly, exactly. Yo, yeah, 100%.
Well, man, I don't want to tie up your whole evening here.
Okay, yeah.
We'll close this out with the way I always close these, and
Mhm.
just kind of give me like your Mount Rushmore for death metal bands and or albums,
Mhm.
whichever's easier to come up with on the spot.
Mount Rushmore. So what does that mean? Like five or like
Uh, 4, 5, if
four or
that
five
helps.
of like the pinnacle, the top, the
Yeah,
best?
at least for
Yeah.
like you personally, what
Hmm.
like what are your four most influential to you? What are the most important bands for you?
Okay, I'll go by what I gravitate towards, what I listen to a lot. Number one be Slipknot's first album, self-titled. I don't know if that qualifies as death metal. I don't think it does, but it's metal. It's heavy, new metal, whatever. But that thing, man, that changed my life, and it's I still listen to it. I've been listening to it for like 20 years. You know, I mentioned this before, but Ritual by Black Dahlia Murder. I can
Yep.
listen to that album front to back. I just think it's insanely good. This is also not death metal. This is hardcore, but Perseverance by Hatebreed.
Oh,
That's
sick.
another record I've just listened to so many times. You know, just Jesus Christ. Uh, I'd say One of Us is the Killer by Dillinger. That is a huge one for me.
Yeah.
So that's four. But to really go death metal, like a an album that just like I fucking masterpiece would be Nightmares Made Flesh by Bloodbath.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's like, dude, every now because I kind of forget about it for a little while, and then I'll put it on, and
Sure.
I'm just like, oh my god, you know, like perfection, you know. So anyway, there's five, a little eclectic mix, but that's kind of how I am. So, yeah,
Yeah. No,
mhm,
I dig it, and
yeah,
honestly, pretty appropriate, all things considered,
right on. Yeah, you could probably put the pieces together.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, dude,
Mhm.
thank you so much for coming on here, man.
My
This
pleasure.
is this has been a joy talking and getting
Likewise.
to pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I guess there's not really any tours or anything to plug.
No, no, but if I
Um,
want, maybe I could plug the studio a little bit. Ugly Duck Studios. I'm a
there you go.
producer. If anyone's interested in doing some work, mixing, mastering, if you're local, engineering, of course, we're over in Dorchester, Mass. You can email me at eric@uglyduckstudios.com. Check us out online too, Ugly Duck Studios. And album comes out in June.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time.
See ya.